No.
I got the prime answer. I had the question. I'm laughing.
So everybody gets a chance. I took everybody that's on the email list and I put their name on a card. So as we go through the questions, I'm going to pull the cards off. Since you all did all of the problems.
What about those that are not on the email list?
I tried to remember Herman, and I don't know who else isn't on the.
Well, we got the two Mountie boys.
Okay.
Don't forget Andy.
And we got the rule.
Okay.
That might be it.
We'll substitute for the first ones like.
I can show you some stuff.
Since Chris Sanger's not here, we'll substitute. Part A for the set of questions.
I know the answer.
The one thing I'm going to do a lot is I often say I'm going to play my 2-year-old routine. I'm going to ask why a lot. Because this is really intended to check your understanding of how things are, how they all interact, that sort of thing. Start with the first one on the item. First one on the top is Jerry. Low water cutoff.
Yes, it is.
What is it? What's it do? Where is it located? How's it work?
You want me to point it out on a car?
Well, you can tell us kind of where they might be on the cars that you know.
All right. On the condensing cars, they're located on the right-hand side of the boiler. They're vertical, up against the firewall. Okay, mounted up against the firewall. What?
You're doing really well.
The lower port is for steam. Okay. The upper 2 ports is the inlet and outlet of the fuel. All right. The inlet for the fuel is the lower port. The outlet for the fuel is the upper port. All right. The plug on the side is to bleed out air out of this if necessary. A lot of the other cars have a valve and a tube.
Some of them don't have it at all.
Some don't have it at all. Yeah. How it operates. Under normal circumstances, when you have level in the boiler, you have water in this column. Inside there's a hollow tube here, hollow brass tube in here. There's a diaphragm in here with a pin going through it. The pin is soldered to the diaphragm. When there's water in the tube, the diaphragm is in its relaxed position, and there's a pin into an orifice here, and in its relaxed position, the pin is down low and the orifice is open, allows fuel to go through here. When the boil level drops, you get steam in the tube expands, the length increases, and the pin goes up into the orifice, up in the top of here, and cuts off the fuel. What else would you like to know?
Anybody else have any? Anybody have any?
That was good.
Do all the cars have that?
They didn't.
Do all the cars have that?
Mark's asking the question, do all the cars have that?
No,
607 didn't.
it does now.
It does now.
The 725.
It works too.
It doesn't. It would have. Where it was in the literature it had.
I think they did away with fusible plugs in the early condensing years somewhere, 16, 17 maybe, and then this was standard after that.
It blocks fuel to the steam automatic, isn't that so?
How's it? Where is it in the plumbing cycle? In the plumbing, coming off the pump.
It's coming off the pump. It's after the fuel filter on condensing cars, the fuel filter on the firewall. It's after that and before the steam automatic.
The fire valve is in there too,
Yeah.
and your main fuel shutoff, which condensing cars don't really have. I don't think it's critical where it is, as long as it's in that
That's part of that loop.
series.
As long as it works. Huh?
Yeah.
Yes, Bill.
Tom, what's the level where it connects? It's 4.5 inches off the bottom of the boiler,
Yeah,
about where the tricock is,
about
For
4
the-
inches.
where the bottom water connection is.
Steve Jensen draws this little jobber.
Oh, wow, the paperweight. Yeah, it is an excellent paperweight. I'm going to say regulator, but I could be wrong with that.
That's the fuel automatic.
Well, close, am I not? And?
What's it do? Where is it located? Or you can pass it if you don't know the answer. You can pass it to somebody else in the class.
It's like a brown bag auction.
Yeah.
We can take a shot at it. Fuel automatic, it will shut the fuel off.
Anybody agree or disagree?
At a set pressure.
Does it shut it off or does it do something else with it?
Maintains pressure.
Okay, so what's it end up having to do to maintain that pressure?
Does it have to, can anybody answer?
Yeah,
Does it have to bypass the fuel back into
Right.
the retaining tank?
into the main tank?
Main
Not the
tank.
main tank, the pressurized tank.
No.
Regulates the fuel from the pump. Am I right or wrong? I'm taking guesses. I'm
You're
not.
close. Jerry's got, I think, the whole.
Jerry's going to be the man of the
sorry.
night.
All right. What it is a back diaphragm, spring-loaded diaphragm back pressure regulator. All right, in the fuel system, downstream of the pump, and in between the pumps and in the circuit going from the pumps up to the pressure tanks. It's got a set back pressure, and as the pressure in the system rises to the set pressure on the back pressure regulator, it bleeds the excess fuel pressure back to the fuel tank.
Oh, back to
Which
the main
fuel
tank?
tank? Back to the kerosene tank.
Not the service tanks.
Right.
It's kind of like a safety valve, in other words.
And
Whatever it doesn't need, it puts back.
But it goes
Yes.
back into
Okay.
the main tank, not
It
the
goes back into the main kerosene
It's a
tank,
safety valve.
not the pressure tank.
Yeah, because they're closed system.
the thing you've got to remember when you're driving along, you're always pumping fuel. So you've got to get rid of it.
The thing I got to remember is it doesn't have flange wheels on it. That's my problem. Steering's not a problem. Thank you.
And these are normally set around 135 pounds on most of the cars.
Nominally, yeah.
Yeah.
Condensing cars are located.
They are located on the right-hand side, the back,
Behind
right
us.
rear of the pump box.
And non-condensing? Like the 71, or I can tell you where they are in 71, down the pump box.
They're all down in the pump box.
A tiller car, they're under the front seat, probably near the tank, near the fuel tank.
It's under the front floorboard on the 7.5,
Okay.
which is kind of an odd.
Which one's the inlet, which one's the discharge?
The inlet is here and discharge, the inlet's the side and discharge is the top.
The end of it.
Are they mounted horizontally usually?
Yeah.
Usually,
that's right.
usually just like that.
Right.
Okay, with coming in from there's a line coming off the circuit going out of the discharge of the pumps and towards the pressure tanks. And then this line returns back to the fuel tank, the main kerosene tank.
Yeah.
Are the diaphragms all metal in all these type regulators?
Those are.
Copper or brass. But I don't think it makes any difference what way they're mounted. If Jerry's right, they're usually mounted the way he was holding it up. But I don't think it has much to do with the operation of it.
Any questions on, yeah, Bill?
If that fails, what do we see and what do we do about it?
Which way is it going to fail? You got to
It's done. Well,
either or.
Well, there's a couple failure modes you could have.
and I have personally had one get the discharge get plugged and have the discharge pressure go spiking up to 175 pounds.
Or else it stay open.
Then what do you do at that point?
You crack the bleed valve back to the tank.
On a non-condenser, you close your pressure retaining valve. And the fuel has to bypass then. Or else you're just blocking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can limp home by working the pressure retaining valve on and off to maintain the pressure.
Now you could have one of those break a diaphragm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll probably leak out. It'll leak out the screws and all. Not real strong.
And that'll give you lower.
Right. Or you can be like me the first time I hooked the one up in my car backwards. It didn't work. No. No, because I couldn't, since I wasn't getting pressure on the diaphragm, it just went all the way up.
Did you just figure that out by guesswork, turn it around, see if it works?
Started trying to figure out what was wrong with it, and then finally understood how that thing worked. Because I thought I'm thinking normal valve has a seat with a pin in it, and you always have it flow into the bottom, and that's how I hooked that up under that logic, and it's not.
You forgot it was the Stanley Brothers.
Yes.
The pressure
It says the car's pumping fuel all the time it's running, or all the time after it's fired up?
Anytime the wheels are in motion. If it's a non-condensing car, the pumps are fed off of what?
This could be just
The engine.
Off the engine. Condensing cars are fed off of
Rear axle.
rear axle.
Which are
look to see if mine ours has two.
Right one.
Right.
Which side?
Inside.
Right one.
Because if you want to jack up and pump,
This is
you gotta jack the right wheel up, or you ain't gonna pump none.
Right.
Is it always the right side?
Yep.
This
With
is like-
condensing, non-condensing, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Coming in here against the spring that's in
Well,
there.
both wheels would have to be off the ground.
Yes.
No, just one,
The non-
because it's a
just
differential.
one.
Any other questions on that? Roseanne draws something I don't have an example of. It's the water automatic, which is similar to this. It's mounted that way in the car.
Okay, Jerry, go ahead.
If she answers the question, can she keep it?
No, I don't want to keep it. No.
She can rebuild it.
You're gonna just start charging for it.
Oh.
Give it a shot.
No, no,
Can
I
I
want the
do
right
it?
answer.
Can I do it?
Here, let's let Mark do it.
Okay.
I didn't know there were that many options.
This works the same way what Jerry was talking about, but it's sideways in the car. And so the internal parts are the same, but what it's doing is regulating the level of water in the boiler. The way it does that is this tube is in a loop that has that's connected to the boiler. So if the level of water in the boiler goes down, this fills up with steam, and then this expands and it pushes against the diaphragm. I guess it closes that valve.
Is this
Yeah.
fuel up here?
It's got steam in it. Now this regulates the flow
Water.
of water
Not
into
fuel.
the boiler. Right.
Yeah, that's the
No.
water automatic.
This is the water
automatic.
automatic. So this is
What
trying
part
to
of the
think how
circuit's that
plumbing
in?
works.
The water circuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
After the.
Water's coming up from the pump.
water's coming up from the pump.
It goes where?
And this probably shuts off the bypass so that the water has to be pumped into the boiler.
Boiler. So it's in the line, essentially goes back to the water tank.
So when it heats up, it expands and that shuts the valve. So then the water has to flow into the
Boiler because it builds pressure.
So then when the water level comes up, this tube cools down and that valve opens back up and the pump can bypass.
And we learned it makes a really neat noise in the 16.
Yeah, it makes a squishy, well,
Yeah.
that's the sound it makes on the 725.
It seems redundant with the fuel, or the low water cutoff.
No, it has nothing
Well,
to do with it.
No,
Yeah, the low water cutoff
Shuts off the
is
fuel.
protection. This is, it operates all the time.
Yeah. This is actually a little bit longer
Well-
physically if I had an example.
it's also mounted at a slight angle.
This-
The
yes.
difference is, if this tells the pumps
Yeah, it's
to put
usually
water
a
into the
slight
boiler, that doesn't necessarily mean the pumps are pumping.
Richard, it's the
Yeah,
same as when
gotcha.
you're turning the pumps on and off.
Right, that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
this,
Yeah, but
this
if you
takes
turn
the
the
place
pumps
of
That
on-
takes the place of,
I don't have that, that's
that's
why.
in the
I'm
condensing
confused.
part.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that's.
725 has
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
725, 35.
So that's mostly in condensing parts.
But you can override it and you can still tell the pumps to put water into the boiler even with that. But you can't disconnect this from the water circuit because it will always try and pump water into the boiler when it thinks that, at least with one pump. Because you can still bypass one pump all the time on the 725. I don't know what you can do.
You
on the
know,
other
well,
ones.
on some of the, like 35 you can't.
It's
40 you
kind of-
can't.
couldn't originally.
Yeah, you can't originally.
The 735 has two separate.
No, it doesn't have none.
Right.
how much water is left in the boiler before that thing kicks in?
This is mounted about halfway up the side of it,
Well,
at an angle.
it all depends where it's
Slight
mounted
angle.
relative to the boiler height.
So that's unique.
The higher you mount it, next to the boiler, the higher it will maintain the water in the boiler. I mean, it allows for a couple of inch deviation in water height in the boiler. You know,
Well,
over
that you
its,
didn't explain, cause Mark said it was supposed to be horizontal. It has to have
Well-
that 1.5-inch slope to it, and that
It,
means
it has
it'll
a
keep,
slight slope.
theoretically at least, it'll keep the water level within that 1.5-inch range. Which is probably 2/3 full is where we like to run. Half or 2/3 full.
On the 735, you'll see the needle go from the mark above half down to the mark below half. It just sits there and oscillates back and forth. It'll drop back. You'll hear the pump come on because you hear the clunking.
Right.
And it goes right back up again, and you hear the pump stop again. So it just sits there and oscillates. I don't know what it does in the 740 necessarily with the electric.
Runs all over the place.
It's not nearly as exact.
yeah. But you always have to remember that just because that thing thinks that the pump should be pumping doesn't mean that the pumps are pumping water into the boiler.
Yeah.
No, you have to fill your water tank once in a while.
Bill?
You had something happen on your car relative to a valve that had a ball in it,
That's this valve.
and the water direction being wrong, and it never unseated itself. What was going on there?
In the real one of these, at least in the 735s, this rod comes down and there's a ball sitting on the end of it that sits in the seat. And I was feeding the water in the side and out the end.
So you,
So when it pulled back and said, I need water, the ball actually came off the end of the shaft and the water pressure kept
Held
it
it up
seated. So it couldn't still, and it kept
unseated.
flooding the boiler.
So it's
Okay, so I replumbed it now so it always blows the ball with that off the seat.
off the seat. Okay.
Wait a minute, you hooked that up backwards too?
I hooked it up the way it came. That one I had out of the drawer because I checked that. Any other discussion or things about this?
That's only on the condensers.
Well, if you go to a steam car tour, you will see half the non-condensers, if not 2/3 of them, with these on it. But it was not original. They never put these on until 1915 originally.
Brian, you want to pass that back to Ann?
That's different.
Skip that. He's throw you a wrench. At least you knew it wasn't a steam automatic.
Yes, I did, that's true. This is not the steam automatic.
No,
That's to be
that's
had.
not the water automatic.
No,
We just did this
No, you didn't do the steam automatic, that's
Yeah,
next.
We didn't do the steam on that.
Okay.
The water on
That's okay, because this must be the pilot then.
Yep.
Oh, please start, huh? And what would you like to know about it?
on the front of the engine.
Where's it located? What's it do? How's it work?
Well, in my car, it's located in the front. So I don't know about those condenser cars. I like the non-condensing personally. Mine doesn't quite look like this either. What else would you like to know?
How's it work?
How does it work? You heat it up when you're firing up, and it gets hot enough it vaporizes the fuel, correct? The pilot fuel?
What's vaporizing?
The hexane.
Where is it vaporizing?
Where?
Yeah.
In the hexane tube.
Where's the hexane tube?
Would you like to help me out with what it is?
The-
In the hexane.
I can help her out.
Please
The-
do.
The U-shaped tube is the vaporizing part of it.
thing is
Yeah.
Because
That's
the
the
fuel,
mixing tube?
No.
no, it's just the
That's a
vaporizing.
vaporizer.
The
Where's
mixing takes place underneath,
under
Where's the
here?
mixing tube?
So
in
that's,
there.
so when you have a fire in your mixing tube, this is where it will have.
No,
the
that's,
flow.
no, you don't usually get one.
But you do get that.
You do,
Oh,
You
yeah.
had one.
Yes.
In the pilot?
mhm,
Yes.
yep.
Yes,
Goes out.
yes, it was lovely.
It can melt the casting if you
That's
let
right,
it go.
You made people move real quick.
This goes this way,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
and
worked.
then
On
this,
top
this
of the
goes
burner.
on
Yes.
top of it.
Where,
This heats that.
This was like
Yeah.
that.
Turn it.
You gotta
upside down. No, the part you put in.
Well, it's
Upside down the
Air
other way.
Force. Also has a crack in it too.
So the fuel,
This heats this.
Uh-huh.
yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, the fire's on top of those slots.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
Heats the vaporizer.
And the bullet comes out that.
Heats the vaporizer and heats.
Comes
the
out.
vaporizer.
That's what's a little burner.
Cyber
Yes,
shirt.
that's exactly.
It's a miniature
I
burner,
won't
that's
say
right.
what it looks like. Okay.
How did you put the fire out in the
Blew on it really
pilot mixing tube?
Very carefully.
Turn off
Blow it
the
out.
pilot fuel.
Turn the pilot fuel off, open the needle a little bit, let some of the pressure off, blow it out.
Yeah. I found that, I bought one of those computer cans of compressed air. Very handy. For, for blowing out fires.
I just I mean, some of them they fill up with.
For cleaning your keyboard. Oh my God.
Mixed in,
no.
It's the one that says propane on the side, right?
It's air.
Freon. Is that
Compressed air.
It used to use Freon. It used to be Freon. I think they are. Right now.
They're not allowed to use Freon.
Yeah, be sure you have air.
Don't forget I have to clean this part before I start up all the time. The little needle, and then the fuel comes in there.
Mhm.
Well, it wasn't brought up that it burns continuously, was it? Once you light it, it burns the whole time that the
One of
cars
the
and,
CDs about Tom Kennard gave me was about difficult questions and easy answers or something like that. And they were interviewing somebody about them. He said you should always keep your pilot running day and night. I thought that's kind of interesting. They never turned it off, and you got what, 25 gallons would last a day or something for the fuel.
25 gallons?
It's
Not
some
25.
weird number. I wrote it down.
The gallon's like.
It
That's
said
a
that
big pilot
they would
fuel
get
tank.
12 miles per gallon of kerosene, and 1 gallon would last 24 hours if they're running along.
That's
One
it.
gallon.
That
Oh,
would
I
have
get
said, yeah.
Yeah, 1 gallon.
Where's that tank?
Depends which car.
Pick one.
My car's under my seat. And some of the other ones.
How big's
it's
that tank?
big.
The hexane tank?
In the 607, it's real cylindrical, about deep. I'm not sure about how much it holds.
3 gallons.
3?
Oh, I was gonna say
It's
2.
the same as the ones on the side, just vertical. Yeah, pretty much.
How full do you fill it?
Not all the way, because you gotta leave your cushion of air.
I just wanted you to know it wasn't 25 gallons.
Hey,
Like I said
25
before.
They could have done 25, you never know. Long
That would
distance
be an
car.
awful big.
Think how far you could go.
Just on hexane.
Yeah, but I don't know that the pressure would stay up.
That's why you have a
And on the early cars, it burns gasoline,
compressor.
Yes.
like the main burner.
Very dangerous to have all that fuel under pressure. That was one of the problems with the white steamers.
Right.
They carried pressure on the main tank, and the main tank was right in the back of the car.
Mhm.
So if there was ever a rear end collision, and they burn gasoline, so very weak part of the white, but then White stopped making steamers in 1910, so after that they didn't need to worry about it.
Well, that was a Stanley patent, wasn't it, that White
I
could
think
never
it
get,
was
probably?
Stanley idea, and they could patent it apparently,
Yeah.
of just having a little bit of fuel under pressure, and none on your storage tank.
Mr. Hoffmeister.
Is that what they call the flow motor?
The flow motor
Next pop.
mix, control the fuel ratio with the water.
Forgot my
pumps.
brain was
That's what the
erased.
flow motor does.
Yeah, all at once, all the same, one same valve.
The more water going in, more fuel goes in. It's just a flash pull.
Steam in here and it, no.
The
Yeah,
white gas
what
tank
regulates
is
fuel?
tri-cops
No,
on
that
it,
was-
just like a boiler.
I don't remember.
Because it's
Is that the
pressurized,
steam
you can't
automatic?
take the cap off. It's
Steam
the
automatic.
pressure of your
Okay, steam's in here,
so your little tri-cops.
and the fuel comes in here, goes out there,
Fuel
low point,
versus air, you know
adjust
what
it.
the water level.
Okay, how's it? When does the fuel go through or not go through?
When the steam gets high, this goes up and shuts it off.
Why don't you flip it over?
Yeah,
Well, it's easier to hold this way. This way it's hard.
But they're mounted that way.
Right.
yeah.
They usually are,
So
but
the
they
fuel
can
goes
be
in
mounted
here.
anyway.
That way you look like you're
It
in
comes
charge.
out this end. When the steam is high, it shuts it off. The little pin goes down and shuts the seal
Yeah.
off. Did I remember? You could,
Say that again?
I was bluffing all the way because I don't remember.
Well, that's what's operating when say your gauge is at 550 or something like
Yeah.
that. That's what's shutting off the burner.
But I remember.
That's essentially a burner
So
regulator.
The burner regulator.
Yeah, it just keeps your pressure at a
But it-
regulated amount.
How do you adjust it?
Fuel shovel.
Right. Oh, I need to guess I forget that part. It has to be in here. I don't remember. Oh, you turn this in.
Top part.
Yeah, that's where I'm pointing.
And there's a locking screw, right?
No, the locking screw's in the bottom. The top one don't have any.
Locking screws on
Yeah,
the
on
packing
packing.
plan.
Yeah, that's missing too. In there so it doesn't turn when we're taking. Do I get to keep it?
Is there a standard direction that you're turning them in when you're regular? In other words,
Tighten the spring for higher pressure.
beg your pardon?
Tighten the spring for higher pressure.
As you
This
tighten up-
follower is pushing up on the spring.
The spring's up here.
Yeah.
The spring is in this section.
Okay,
The disc is right through there.
right.
So the steam's pushing down on it. So you,
The tighter the
countering
spring,
Push it up.
so if you tighten it this way, you drive the bolt up, which compresses the spring, which puts more,
Right.
it takes
I would
more
call
slide
that
to
clockwise.
open the-
just like a standard bolt
Right. Tightens makes it shut off at a higher pressure.
pressure.
Are they all different if you moved it, say, one hole?
Well, they claim one hole was 25 pounds, and it usually runs pretty close to that.
Tom, you talking about 360 degrees?
No, one
No,
hole.
Just one
There's
hole.
6 holes, I think.
Yeah,
each
yeah.
of
Oh,
ours.
I
so
see.
6 holes, Tom.
Okay.
6 to return is about
One
25
flat,
pounds.
strong spring. One hot.
Yeah, it's a heck of a spring.
Yeah.
And it's a gradual change as it opens and closes. It's not all of a sudden. As the pressure drops 25 pounds, it opens a little bit and the burner comes on. And if you need more, it comes on harder. And it does the same going the other way. It shuts it down gradually.
Not supposed to, but they do.
All the ones I've ever seen.
That you're playing with them. You just have to draw it.
They work within 10
Bob,
pounds
Oh, goody.
Bob, before you get to that, one thing everybody ought to realize is the natural state of that is open, not closed. All right, the relaxed state, sitting there on the car is
Normally
open.
open.
Okay.
Well, it don't operate until it gets up to the 500
Yeah,
pound
it doesn't
pressure,
shut
then it
off until
shuts
you have
off.
steam
Can you
on
shut it off?
You always get fuel going through there when it's just sitting
Yeah,
on the
let's
car.
see
Can
how
I
much,
adjust?
Yeah, sure.
see how high pressure a guy he is.
See how hot it is too.
Appears to be hooked up.
John just drew the pump assembly for a
He's
condensing
already
car.
lectured on this.
That looks like the heartbeat showed me during my surgery.
No, this is,
Yes.
this is what normally resides in the pump box or the pump zone It appears to be condensing pumps because the condensing pumps are longer stroke. If you notice the length of the body of the pump, they'll be shorter on the non-condensing cars. These are the two water pumps. One of them is generally referred to as the front, one of them is referred to as the rear, which on most cars you can turn on either just the front or the front and the rear. But in most cars you can't have the rear on unless you have the front on. Water enters down here through a check. It's sucked into the pump, and then it's pumped up through a check towards the boiler. These are the pump packing nuts, which are just used with packing to keep water from coming out around the pump shaft. The pump box is driven off the right rear axle on the condensers, and it's driven directly off the motor on the non-condensers. This is the fuel pump, which is always pumping fuel as long as the motor's running, or as long as the car is moving. This is the oil pump, which I'm not really sure that this one's hooked up. The oil pump typically has a stroke that is only about 1/4 the complete stroke of the pump box, since you're not going to need to pump that much oil. And the oil is sucked in through a check through this port, and then is pumped back out here on its way up to the winker. Pump of course has a packing, and the fuel nut has a packing. The fuel packing you probably don't want to get super tight, since you don't want to create a lot of heat on the fuel packing pump side. I don't know, what am I forgetting? These checks all have little balls inside them. The height that the ball travels is very critical. Most people today run nylon balls as pump checks. They originally, I guess, would have been brass. So sometimes when you're out driving, you may have to take this nut off and clean out the. No, this one has a shaft on it.
Yeah, told it over. This ball has a little shaft on it, which I guess was put there so that when they seat, they stay at the same seat. I don't know that I can fully explain why the little shaft is on there.
I don't know, the condensing cars seem to employ that. They must have thought it worked better with the long stroke pumps. My experience, I don't think the little shaft means anything.
I don't think that.
It does mean that the ball hits the seat in exactly the same place all the time, and where's the ball? Now maybe they thought that it would like lapping the ball in maybe, but it soon wears the ball, so you have quite a groove there where it hits the seat at the same place all the time.
Yeah, the 725. This would probably be a later car, correct? Like 735 or 740.
Well, I thought the 25s would have had them, but maybe not, because this car had them.
The 716 certainly doesn't.
The 716.
725, 1960. Yeah, the 725.
And you were saying you're going along.
I don't
Sometimes
think it does.
sometimes you would check the pumps if you think.
Yeah, if you're not sure whether the pumps are working right or not, what you have to do is you have to jack up the back end of the car, or the right side of the car if it's a condenser, and then you of course close your water valves, your forward and your rear bypass, and then what you do is you just crack these nuts just a little bit, and if it squirts water out with a good crisp squirt, then you can tell the pump's working right. If you crack this and water just dribbles out, then you know the pump's not working. There's something wrong. It's not pumping correctly.
Is that also a way to reestablish or prime the pump?
No, if you lose a prime on a pump, well, on most cars, you just open up the both bypasses, and that'll reestablish the prime. Now, if you're on a condenser or a car with a water automatic, then I suppose you might have to open those up, because if the water automatic is forcing you to pump, if you're low on boiler water, yeah, it's gonna go against pressure.
It's gonna wanna go against pressure. Now, the rear one, you can still open. You can open the rear bypass at least on the 725. But the front one, in theory, you might lose prime on, and you might have to do that. I don't think that's ever happened to us. But normally, if you're driving along and you think you lose prime, just open up both bypasses for a few moments.
If you got water in the tank.
If you get water in the tank, well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you'd assume,
Well, and you can lose prime if you lose water, or if you get so little that the pumps aren't getting any water.
right?
Generally, if you can get all the air out, they'll prime right up.
Yeah, okay.
Because these are lower basically at the bottom of the tanks, level-wise. So if you've just filled the thing, if it's lost its prime because you ran out of water,
Fill the tank up.
fill the tank up, crack this, because I've seen it get air bubbles in the.
Yeah.
Now, I think this one Tom normally uses to pressure test boilers. Tom, or do you have another one? Did you?
Yes, that's the one Bob had, that's a
Yeah, so,
hydrostatic test pump.
so when they want to hydrostatically test boilers, you fill the boiler up with water, and then you use one of these pumps with a hand, and of course you can pump pressure into the boiler at very high pressure levels.
Where are the two bypasses? One's on the steering column?
Well, they vary by car, but with the most cars, one is on, the front bypass is on the steering column, and the rear bypass is on the floor, well, to your left or right, it depends whether if the steering wheel's on a right,
Okay, left,
then it's normally the left valve.
left valve.
It's on
Inside
the-
valve, and
Yeah, inside valve is probably the best way to put it.
Okay.
If it's a left-hand steering car, then it's the inside valve as well. Now, in some of the later condensers, they at least didn't come from the factory with two bypasses. Correct, they only came with
Well,
one.
it's a little dangerous to say the valve on the steering column is the front pump and the valve on the floor is the back pump, because that is technically not correct.
No, you're right.
The one on the steering column is both pumps, the one on the floor is back pump only,
Mm-hmm.
which means that you have the flexibility of using one pump. And the other way, if you didn't have the ability to bypass that back pump, and as John says, some of the cars don't, or didn't originally anyway, then it's two or nothing as you work the valve on the steering column. So what the one on the floor does, it opens a valve directly from that back pump back to your tank. So no matter what you do then with the steering column, there's no way that back pump is going to pump water into the boiler. So that's how we use one pump. We always are bypassing the back one, and as long as this valve on the column is closed, you're always pumping into the boiler with the front one. But when you open it, then you're going to be bypassing with both. When the one on the column is open, it doesn't matter where the valve on the floor is, because they're both going to bypass anyway. Now, originally, the ability to bypass just one pump came in about 1909, I guess, and I'm not sure whether E2 has that or not. 9 or 10. Prior to that, it was 2 or nothing.
Wow.
And on the EX, we put a bypass on the back pump, but that was an add-on. And the same is true going the other way in the condensing period. I guess they figured when they put a water automatic, an automatic bypass on the cars, that then the automatic would take care of it and you had no need to bypass one pump. Let the automatic bring both on or take both off. And the automatic will even modulate a little bit, so that's even better in a way, because you don't flood the boiler and then have none. You kind of, the automatic's half open, so it's kind of just an even flow, about half the amount you would have when it's completely closed. But then, let's see, the 725 does have the bypass in the floor to bypass one pump completely, even when the automatic is calling for water. That one, as John said earlier, is still going to bypass. But the 735, we added it on, so we could bypass the one. It didn't have originally. And the 740, I don't think you can bypass one anyway. I think there is no way it was set up.
Yeah, there's no bypass on the column on the 740. There's no valve.
Well, there isn't on the 735 either.
Yeah.
You have to go up under the dash.
Right, it's up under the dash on the right-hand side. That's the only bypass you have.
And the tiller cars only had one water pump.
They only had one pump. So it on or off.
We've heard a lot about pumps that don't pump or failing, or people are worried that they're not pumping. And there's the possibility, of course, that you've got air in it or something like that. But what are some of the other reasons why a pump doesn't pump? Has it got something to do
I
with
don't imagine they had all these reasons when the cars were new, but I think that when the pumps get some wear on them, sometimes no matter what you do with setting the lift properly of the ball and all that stuff, you still have a problem. Now, as some of you know that have been running the 607, we still have a problem with that front pump, and I've rebuilt it and all, but it's not right. And so we got to go back to the drawing board and either try to find a better pump or do something more with that one. The mountain wagon, of course, we've been running the mountain wagon here for almost 60 years now, not quite. But the first 30 years, I don't think the pumps ever failed. They were perfect. And they had the brass ball with a stem in it, like the one that John pulled out there. But they started to get trouble. And I went through everything, tried to see what was wrong, really couldn't find anything wrong. Decided that maybe I better ask Ole Vicker to rebuild the pumps. And I guess what he would do when he rebuilt the pumps would be to go down in the cap with a special tool to cut that brass seat in there nice and flat again, and then go in with a second tool which had a little taper to it to just give the seat, the part where the ball seats, just a little bit of a cut on there just to give it enough. Because what happens with age, and especially when they've been lapped in a lot of times, that seat gets wider and wider. And when the seat gets too wide, I think that's one of the things that gives us a lot of problem. However, I had an extra set of pumps, just like was in this car, thought they were in good shape, put them in temporarily while Ole was rebuilding the other pumps. I still had trouble. Well, to get the new pumps back from Ole, put them in, I still had trouble. So it must not have been in the pump itself. You check the inlet to see whether the line is choked from the tank to the pump. On this car and on the condensing cars, it normally comes right out of the side of the tank, right into a T there, and feeds to both pumps from that, in the side of the pump box. But non-condenser is a little different, but anyway, they're all supposed to run to the pumps pretty much by gravity, the water is. But I never did solve it, and then I thought, well, I'm going to try nylon balls, because they wouldn't have the stem in them, they're just the regular nylon ball. Can you use a nylon ball with no stem in a pump like this? Well, I had to reset the lift a little bit, because it's a little different the way that ball is made with a stem. Haven't had a bit of trouble since. Worked beautifully with the nylon balls, but don't ask me why. I can't tell you why. But we are having pump trouble, and some of it must be because the pumps are old and worn. I don't think it has much to do with the stem being worn. I mean, a lot of you say, oh, the pump's leaking. Well, the packing's leaking, but that usually, unless it's leaking awful bad, is not going to mess you up on the road, pumping water. So that's my version of it, and I don't have a clear-cut answer as to how to correct it every time, but they can drive you up a wall. Bill Swobel can tell you that some days the pumps work fine on the 87, sometimes one of them quits on you.
Well, one of the reasons one quit one day was that little wire keeper on the packing nut came off, and we had just repacked the pump, and the packing nut just backed off, and all the packing came out. Of course, it was held in there, still on the shaft, but the pump was trying to pump into the boiler, but it was all leaking out. And we just watched that water level indicator come up, and finally I said, no, we got to stop and look. And that's all it was. But that's kind of important too, that little wire keeper to keep the packing nut where it's supposed to be.
There's 4 pumps here, there's still 2 more.
Yeah, there's 2 hand pumps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hand pumps are, which do what?
One pumps fuel and one pumps water.
Okay. The water pump is connected to the back here. It's basically a closed loop. The piston doesn't have a set of check valves. It uses the check valves of this pump. So when you pull the handle back, it draws water in to that whole circuit. And then when you push it, the check valve closes off the supply. Blows it through. I guess the only car that's, well, it's hooked up on the 71, I know, but the valve is off. I don't think any of the rest of the cars even have them hooked up, do they?
Probably not, because
It's a short cylinder.
it's a terrible way to have to put water in the boiler. You can sit there and pump for an hour and maybe pump 2 or 3 inches in and all that time.
And it's about a shot glass load of water that you're doing in each stroke.
Yeah, I don't bother to hook them up, but they really should be hooked up, I guess.
The other one is into the fuel pump. And it essentially works the same way. Draws fuel in from the tank and pushes it back through this to pressurize the service tanks.
How do you find the fuel pump, the hand fuel pump?
I've only ever had one to do and it primed up. That was on my car.
Yeah, I've had to find them.
Okay.
It's worse on the condensers for some reason. And I guess it's because the tank is usually so far away and the line goes down and up again to your hand pump. But you usually have to loosen the inlet. Well, there's only one pipe to it. And as Bob says, it pulls in and pumps out through the same line. But you usually loosen that nut, run your plunger back to try to push the air out, close the nut, go the other way to suck fuel in.
Yeah, you suck fuel in.
Do that a few times and that'll usually prime it.
Kind of like bleeding brakes.
Yeah.
Kind of like bleeding the brakes.
Now,
Same idea exactly.
there is a check valve back between the tank and the pumps. And that's the check valve the hand pump usually runs, at least in the condensing cars.
And that's the first thing to look for, is to make sure that check back at the tank is working. Because a lot of times, not a lot, we haven't had much trouble, but sometimes you have trouble running along and you start to lose your fuel pressure. And
That happens
can
with
be a number,
735.
can be a number of things, but the first thing I always look at is that the check valve back at the tank. And sometimes you just tap it with a hammer, it'll be okay.
That was exactly what happened with the 735, taking it to Linville about 4 years ago with Dave. Started to lose fuel pressure, finally identified it as the check valve. Eventually ended up just taking up a floorboard and one of us sitting in the back and tapping it every couple of miles.
Well, that must have been from gum in the tank. And that still must be plaguing Steve and Jim the other day. Getting so much stuff in the nozzles and they couldn't keep the nozzles clean. And I think that tank must have a lot of dirt in it.
Well, at the time we did take the
That's right, I
filter,
remember the first
take the
time.
filter out, take the check valve out, clean everything, and replace it. And he didn't have any trouble after that, at least not for the next couple of years.
Did you find the filter all dirty, screwed up, messed up, whatever?
No, most of it was actually in the check valve itself.
Okay.
It was gummy.
We put a new filter screen and everything, the cylindrical screen in there.
Since we're
Made a new screen.
talking about the fuel system, Jim, you just drew those two copper tanks that are about that big, service tanks.
Can I ask one question before we go too far?
Yeah.
Dave said that you jack the car up, the condenser and the non-condenser. Does it make any difference? One was right wheel, is both of them the right wheel?
Okay, the condensing cars, the pumps are driven off the right rear wheel.
Yeah.
Therefore, that's the side you've got to get up and get spinning to get the pumps to work.
But the non-condenser,
Cars are driven off the crosshead of the engine, so you just need a wheel up, so to let the differential
so it
actually
wouldn't
work.
make any difference?
Doesn't make any difference, because it's the crosshead of the engine that's running.
Yeah.
Either one or both of them.
Okay.
The differential will let one of the two wheels.
If you can't remember and you look under the condensing car, you'll see a little gearbox on the axle too, on one side. That's the side you have to have up.
If it's all of them are on the right side.
That's right.
But you only make that mistake once with the condensers in general. Once you jack up the left side and the pump box doesn't go.
Okay. Well, I didn't have a sample of the,
Dave, I have a question.
yes, sir.
The hand water pump.
Yes.
I've never used the hand water pump. Where is it located?
It's on the same
Same as the fuel handle.
hand
That
fuel
one
pump.
handle under the floorboards has a water pump, and opposite is the fuel pump.
The same handle operates
Both pumps together.
at the same simultaneously?
Yes.
If it's hooked up, and if you wanna pump
Oh.
water, you have to pump fuel also. Of course, the fuel will bypass because you'll be up to pressure pretty soon. But that's one reason that hard pumping, you're not only pumping water, you're pumping fuel going the other way on the stroke every time.
So a lot of cars, Tom has their pump pipe off.
The book tells you, one of those instruction books tells you, if you have used the water pump, be sure when you close the valve to the water pump, that you have the plunger
All the way in.
forward
Yeah.
position, well, up in the body of the pump. Because if you don't, you'll have that pushing the water inside the water pump, and you close your valve and it can't go anyplace, so you won't be able to work your hand to pump fuel.
I think that's in the 1920 manual.
It's in the earlier ones too.
Yeah.
Is it?
One of those.
1913.
Bad idea anyway, these hand water
Yes. They're about half the length of this or so,
Show them
Tom.
3D.
About that long, so you're not pulling much water.
Well, look at the fitting on it, under the floorboards, and the hole in the fitting is about 1/8 of an inch across, so how much water can you push through that per stroke?
It's good if you want an emergency hydrostatic test, maybe.
Well, people have put hydrostatics on their boilers that way, have it going, yeah.
That's about the only thing that pump's good for.
Right, if they didn't have any other way of doing it.
You've paid them. You're up.
I call it, I'm not sure if they're, I call them the accumulator tanks, I'm not sure if that's,
Service tanks are what
They call
is in
service tanks.
Stanley literature.
I've seen them in other cars, the same type thing, like a road. And I think it gives you a space of air and fuel in there to give you a cushion of, I think so you're not getting this pulse of fuel, smooths out the pulse from the pumps.
Right.
And if you get too much fuel, then I think your pressure drops off the car. You don't have enough airspace.
Cushion.
Keep it regular, regular. Not sure.
Where are they located in the circuit?
Between the fuel tank and the pump, they're on the.
No, it can't be between the fuel tank and the pump,
Nah, they're.
because that would put them on the suction side.
Yeah, they're on the
Has to be
back
upper
side.
to
They're on
The
They're
output
out-
side.
they're on the outside.
They're on the back side of the.
Output side of the pump.
Output side.
Yeah.
Why are there two?
Tiller cars
they don't
had
have to
one,
make it
so.
One big one, I don't, I mean.
The smaller the diameter, the safer they are, and that of course was part of the patent, that you didn't have a great large tank under pressure, and I guess that figured you couldn't really have enough air in one little tank to give you a
Mhm.
nice even flow. The utility cars only had one. For some reason, my Model B has two, but I'm sure one of them's been added. The CX only has one.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, I've seen them plumbed up in two different ways too. I've seen the air to the top of both tanks in some of the Stanley drawings and fuel at the bottom. And then I've seen fuel in the one, top to the bottom of the other, and air in.
Yeah, the earlier style was, the theory was that one would be full of air and the other would be full of fuel.
Oh.
And they piped from the top of one into the bottom of the other. And, your fuel, from your fuel pump came into the bottom of the one that was piped out of the top. And when you added air, it went the other way into the top of the other. Later on, they did what Bob said, they connected it at the top and at the bottom. So your level in both tanks would be the same. I don't know which is better, they both seem to work.
I've also
Some of
seen
them
diagrams where a pipe for either the input or the output, I don't know which it is, but it goes 2/3 of the way down the one tank,
Yeah.
inside the tank, so
That's
that
right.
you would always have, I guess that would be the outlet for the fuel, so you would always have 2/3 of a tank of air trapped in there, hopefully,
I think that's right.
till it dissolves.
But Bernard Hart and other people who make new tanks, they don't have that standpipe in them because they usually pipe in a more modern way, I think.
Now, why over time, as you're running, do you lose the air pressure?
Gets absorbed into the fuel.
It's like soda pop, carbonation.
So you have to recharge it periodically.
Or if you get too much air in there, which none of you fellas usually do, you usually don't have enough. But when you get too much, you of course open your fire valve and you pull a little air over. The burner may go out momentarily, you wonder what's the matter with the burner. But you also lose a little air that way too, and you may lose more than a quantity before it picks up on the fuel.
Makes an interesting poof when you do that. I've gotten too much air.
I guess accumulator would be the correct modern name for them, but does an accumulator have to have a bladder in it? These little tanks don't have
Yeah,
bladders, so.
Yeah.
Oil check.
I should know this, I took one apart, I think, but I don't remember.
Jacob.
Yeah, there's a ball in here. Depending on pressure, the ball changes position. But I can't help you much more than that.
I would think that the purpose was to keep the water from coming back out of the boiler as you pump it in. So from one side's in ahead of all the pumping mechanism, so that you're putting water into the boiler, and it doesn't flow back.
Because of the ball sitting
Because of
over
the ball
seat.
sitting
As
into
long as you overcome the boiler pressure, it goes in.
Right. And then it stays in there because the ball, when it tries to come back, the ball seats. And this is but this has three settings.
It's just a check valve from the cabinet over here.
Is that the bypass, is that up there coming out the bottom?
The
or-
cabinet check.
I don't think this is the bypass.
Coming out the bottom, does that,
That was just, I don't know where that one
This one
came
there,
from, that just
okay.
came out of the sample case that's over there.
Now, I understand these will sometimes give you trouble. And at least this is what I picked up. But I'm not sure how they give you trouble exactly. Not allowing the water to stay in the boiler, I guess. is what it would
Okay.
be.
What's
So
inside that thing?
What's inside here?
Yeah.
I thought it was a ball.
Okay.
So
Now there's air.
it could stick in the
Good
wrong
stick,
position.
or you get a piece of dirt under it.
Right. And It's the old knock it with a hammer solution sometimes before you take it apart.
Gently.
Tap it.
Gently, I hate hitting anything with steam under it.
On the locomotive, we had an earwig under the ball, and it wouldn't seat, a very well cooked earwig.
Isn't that it?
It wouldn't take much.
Sometimes that'll crawled out.
You might wanna do lobsters in there.
A little small space.
When you're done running the car.
With this?
Yeah, would that one cause the tank, the boiler not to refill as it cools?
That would need to have a hole in it, because it's gonna draw, the boiler's gonna have a vacuum in it, so it's gonna try to draw through it. So unless this had a hole, the atmosphere somehow.
A Stanley car is full of checks like this of different sizes. That may be a boiler check, but
What was the one I was-
there are a number of checks on the car, fuel and water on a Stanley, and they, several things can cause them to fail. You've mentioned several. The ball can also stick on the seat, and that'll keep the car from siphoning sometimes.
Yeah.
And the same thing that I
Sounds
talked
familiar.
about with pumps can happen on check valve. That seat gets too wide, and the wider it is, the more surface there is there to stick. And we've found on the 87 a couple of times it wouldn't siphon. We tap that check and go right to work.
Just one tap.
Yeah. Did that
Because there was one
Connecticut or
that
something.
changed the ball in one time.
3 days, 3 nights we did it.
Did that a while back.
In Connecticut.
It's up towards the back.
Well, the boiler check itself is, coming right out of the top of the boiler at
Yeah.
the back of the boiler. But then there's usually a second check in the same line that on most cars is